as of this week, New Zealander Philip Mertens has been held hostage in Papua in Indonesia for 6 months. Philip is a much-loved father, husband, brother and son. As a pilot, he was helping to provide vital air links to connect remote communities in Papua. I want to urge once again those who are holding Philip to release him immediately. There is absolutely no justification for taking hostages. The longer Philip is held, the more risk there is to his well-being, and the harder this becomes for him and for his family. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs is leading our interagency response, and I've been kept closely informed of developments over the last 6 months. Our efforts remain... Oops, I've just lost my message here. Our efforts remain directed at achieving a peaceful resolution and Philip's safe release, and that includes working closely with the Indonesian authorities and deploying New Zealand consular staff. Philip's whānau is being supported by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade, both here in New Zealand and in Indonesia, and I spoke with them again this week to assure them that the government's doing all that it can to bring Philip home. I acknowledge this is an incredibly challenging time for them, that they've continued to ask for their privacy, and I thank people for respecting that. Philip's safety and well-being remains our top priority. I am limited in what else I can say publicly about the matter at this time, but I want to once again extend our support to Philip's family, acknowledging that 6-month milestone is a significant one. It has been a very difficult time for them, and we will continue to do all we can to bring Philip home. Moving on to today's news, it's great to be here to have made this announcement about the marine protection for the Hauraki Gulf. I know this is something that community groups here have been advocating for quite some time. The Hauraki Gulf is so significant to New Zealand, it's so significant to our communities, it's significant to even our national identity. So being able to take these steps today to better protect this area is very important. We're looking forward to bringing the bill into the House in the coming weeks before Parliament adjourns for the election. People will then have the opportunity through the Select Committee process to have their say on the legislation, and I'd envisage that it be passed early in the next term of Parliament. I'm very happy to open up for questions.
Prime Minister, you talked about how significant
well, why don't we go? We'll go here first and then I'll come to you. Yeah.
You talked about just how significant the Gulf is, how much of a taonga it is, and the need to sort of undo the damage that's been done. So why not ban bottom trawling entirely in the entire Gulf?
The broader conversations about bottom trawling are ongoing, of course. And so the fact that we've made this particular decision here does not necessarily take off the table future discussion around bottom trawling in all areas. But we'll deal with that everywhere rather than in isolation.
And there's quite a lot of detail still to be ironed out around those trawling corridors. Is that realistically going to be done in the time that you have to bring this before the House?
I'll ask the Minister of Conservation or the Minister of Fisheries is probably, make sure I get the right minister.
Yes, so the trawl corridors, that work, that'll go out for consultation. There'll be different options that will go out for consultation because there's a statutory process around that. And that'll be probably maybe September, October, so there'll be no decisions made before the election on that.
Was there any consideration into creating new marine reserves?
Oh, I can talk to that.
Yeah.
Yes, so the Revitalising the Gulf kaupapa and the Hauraki Gulf Forum went through a significant consultation process around what marine protection we could put in place and what would best achieve the biodiversity outcomes, and balancing all the different competing interests that we have. And what we have announced today is what that consultation process has landed on. So there is an extension to 2 of the existing marine reserves and the introduction of new high protection areas and seafloor reserves as well.
How much of a concern is, Kalerpa and it, coming into the Gulf and the fact that you're not banning bottom trawling and that presents a very real risk of incursion?
I can talk to that. From conversations that I had with many of the iwi just in the last couple of days, it is a concern that is top of mind for them. We have this threat to our oceans, to our sea floors. In Kalerpa, we have seen it around Aotea, Great Barrier, also recently discovered in the Bay of Islands and Rāwhiti, where I am from, and also on Waiheke. It is a huge concern for tangata whenua, for iwi, but also for others with interests in the moana. And and they are wanting to take action on this pest. We have scientists visiting at the moment and holding a series of hui who have been dealing with this issue overseas. I have just been in contact with Minister O'Connor, who is the Minister for Biodiversity and responsible for, biosecurity, and is responsible for our response to it. But yes, it is a serious threat to our oceans, and we are taking it seriously.
But can I just add to that part about the kalufa, and that it does seem to be related to anchoring, so it's not it's more yachts and those sorts of boats rather than to do with bottom trawling.
So what's the likelihood that these protected areas are going to expand even further down the line?
What we are announcing today are the ones that we have worked on over the last couple of years with the Hauraki Gulf Forum, with the many stakeholders who have interest in it. These are the ones that we are in a position to be able to announce at this point in time. And further work and conversations, as we heard today, about the collective objective of whakarauora or revitalising the Gulf will continue. As we heard from Nicola, who is a co-chair of that forum, of course they would like to see more, and we encourage the community to have those conversations, but we are very proud about the announcement we are making today, the tripling of marine protection that we have in the Hauraki Gulf Tikapa Moana.
Minister Prime, you've been working with iwi obviously, but how have they played a part in developing this bill and adhering to their interests when it comes to the concerns around bottom trawling?
For my part, with the marine reserves, I'll leave it to Minister Brooking for bottom trawling and the fisheries plan. We have worked very closely with all stakeholders and all interest groups to achieve a balanced proposal of marine protection, which recognises the tools that we have in terms of marine reserves, but also the introduction of high protection areas. That in particular is recognising the customary practices and rights and interests of tangata whenua. They have been involved in all of the forums and all of the consultation processes, working very closely with us to develop proposals that will work for everybody.
So workers...
Ai. Kua roa tēnei kaupapa e mahi ngātahi ana, te kāwanatanga, ngā tari kāwanatanga, ngā tangata whenua o tēnei rohe o tikapa moana o te hauraki, te moana nui o toi. Kia hanga tētahi rautaki hei tiaki I te moana, hei whakarauora anō hoki I te moana. Kei kona ngā tangata whenua, ngā iwi o tēnei takiwā e mahi ngātahi ana, kia hanga tētahi rautaki pai, hei tutuki I ngā wawata o te whakarauora, kia mahi tonu, kia āhei tonu ki te mahi I ngā mahi tuku iho o a tātou tūpuna, mo te hi ika, te kohi, te ngā kaupapa waka wera mea katoa. Ai, kei reira tonu etahi a wangawanga me ki, tērā pia ko te mea nui kia mahi tahi tonu tātou, kia tutuki ngā wawata o ngā tangata katoa, e pāna ki tēnei kaupapa hei tiaki I te moana. Ko te kaupapa o ngā high protection areas, ka mahi ngātahi te papa atawhai me ngā hapu iwi o wera takiwā ki te hanga I ngā biodiversity objectives e pāna ki tērā. Nō reira he mahi nui tonu kei te haere e pāna ki tērā. Engari ki taku mōhio, ki taku whakaaro, kua mahi tēnei kaupapa kia hoatu I ngā mea kia ngai tātou te iwi Māori e pāna ki te moana, kia ko rātou ngā kaitiaki o tērā, ka tae tonu e rātou te hi ika tonu, wera mea katoa, me te tiaki I te moana mo te katoa.
Ahakoa tēnā e te minita, I ki mai koe I rotora arā hoki nā ture kei mua I te aroaro mo nā tangata whenua, hea hai e pērā ana mo rātou ki te ruku kai moana, ki roko I a rātou nei moana, hea hai?
Ki taku nei mōhio ko ngā high protection areas, he mea hau tērā, hei tiaki I te moana, hei rāhui me ki I te moana, engari ka āhei tonu ngā tangata whenua, te mahi o rātou mahi, tuku iho I ngā tūpuna I roto I riwe rā wāhi, engari ko te mea me mahi tonu, ko te hanga I tētahi rautaki, hei tiaki I te biodiversity I roto I tērā wāhi, me te ātatitiro he hanga mahi ka taia e rātou te mahi tonu, te mahi ngātahi, te whakatūtuki I wera wawata.
Oh, Isabel.
Sorry, Doc's assessment shows that quite a small amount of commercial fishing, I think less than 10 fishers do more than 15% of their fishing in the proposed protected areas. So if not too much fishing is happening in those areas anyway, is it going to have a huge impact?
The breakdown of who's going to be affected in terms of the current fishing the practices in this area has been supplied, and that does include that actually it's a relatively small amount of recreational fishing that would be affected as well. But in terms of the difference it'll make, again, I'll hand back to my ministerial colleagues to comment on that.
Did you want to go on fisheries?
That was on the recreational fishers in that area. I think it will still make a difference. So, sorry, I just understand your point. Your point is that the marine protected areas, the new areas, that there's already not that much fishing happening in those areas. So some of the areas bottom trawling does happen in them at the moment, and this obviously the areas that Minister Prime has announced today, they will not have any bottom trawling in them, so it will make some impact there.
Is this, the first suggestions of these changes were made 10 years ago. Why has it taken this long? Are you confident that the changes proposed today are going to have enough of an impact to make it worthwhile?
Absolutely. These are the changes proposed today in both portfolios. Those are things that have come up from community and scientists and tangata whenua, as we heard about before, and they will definitely make an impact to the environment.
Why has it taken so long, Minister? Because this is not a new idea. It's been around for 10 years. Why now? And have you got to a stage when you can make an announcement? What's the delay?
So we had the, as you well know, had the sea change report, and then the Revitalising the Gulf, which came out 2 years ago, and this is a response to that. Obviously there's consultation that needs to happen and drafting of legislation and other issues. So that work has happened. With my side of things, with the fisheries plan, that's a 5-year project for that one plan, and it will be reviewed annually.
So just to clarify on when this actually will be law, will this be law? Will these high protection areas and extension of marine reserves be in place before the election?
No. The bill will be introduced into Parliament in the next few weeks. It will then go to a select committee, as we do with most bills, go through a select committee process. That select committee process will be able to, if we get the first reading done before the election, we'll be able to get that select committee process underway so that some of that work can start during the election period. That includes people being able to make their submissions and so on. Then I'd envisage the bill passing early next year.
But you can't be sure of that, can you?
Well, government continues to govern right through till election day. That's not new, and of course we'll be backing this all the way through.
Prime Minister,
Yes.
principals have said they're unhappy with National's plan to get rid of smartphones in schools. What do you think of it?
Schools have the ability to ban smartphones or use of cell phones in school now. They don't need Christopher Luxon's permission to do that. Many schools do that already. But the parents who run school boards of trustees are in the best position to make decisions for their school in terms of what's practically implementable and what the best option for their school is. Those schools that have banned cell phones, I've fully supported them previously as Minister of Education and as Prime Minister. But I think those decisions are rightly left with school boards of trustees. Those school boards of trustees represent the parent community. They can make their own decisions. They don't need central government dictating to them what they should be doing and how they should be doing it.
But some of the protectors have told, or the National Party saying that the ban has been asked for by teachers because it sort of gives them more of an emphasis to be able to ban schools and more of the power to do that.
They can do that now. If schools want to ban cell phones now, they can do that right now. There's nothing stopping them doing it. They don't need my permission. They don't need Christopher Luxon's permission. They can do that now.
And just on increased rail on road trains, do you think that will Kotahi stop the balance right?
Yeah, I've got no problem with increased te reo Māori on road signs. I've travelled extensively around the world. Bilingual road signs are nothing new. They exist in so many other countries around the world. There is no impact on safety whatsoever. I think they reflect who we are as New Zealanders, and I've got no issue with it.
Do you think it would be a shame if they were to go away?
I think it would be disappointing if we were to go backwards on it. As I've said, And I've travelled around the world, I've seen bilingual road signs around the world. Many of the countries who introduced them have had a bit of controversy when it's first been introduced, as people have gotten used to it. People get used to it and then they move on.
Prime Minister, do you agree with Christopher Luxon that this election is not actually about you or him?
Who people want to lead the country is what a general election is always about. That includes a competition around who they want to be Prime Minister, and it includes a competition about the ideals, the values and the policies that they want to see implemented.
Are you going to be running a presidential style campaign?
We'll be running the same sort of campaign as that we have always run, which is to put our ideas before the New Zealand public, and to campaign hard for re-election.
But on Chris.
Oh, look, people can make their own judgments on that. I'm not going to really get into that. Ultimately, I'm more interested in presenting myself to the electorate, talking about what I want to achieve as Prime Minister, setting out the difference that I want to make during the tenure that I have in the job, for however long that might be, and clearly articulating what it is that the Labour Party stands for.
What's your reaction to Labour being at 29% in the New Guardian poll?
I haven't seen that poll. I know that the polls in New Zealand, the New Zealand-based polls from New Zealand-based polling companies, are showing that it's a tight race. That's certainly what's being reflected in our own research at the moment. It's being reflected in the sentiment on the ground. But I would note that the Labour Party hasn't started its campaign yet.
Prime Minister, police in Queensland have launched an ad campaign to poach New Zealand officers overseas, including offering a 20k signing bonus, essentially. Do you think that police are paid fairly compared to other public sector roles?
We're seeing very high retention rates in the New Zealand police force, something that we do monitor very closely to see whether we are losing police, and at the moment we're seeing very high retention of our New Zealand police force. I'd say the Aussies should train their own.
Do you think that'll have a big impact, this campaign?
No, I don't.
Do you think your minister got it right when she said that the thing about Australia is there's more Australians? Was that a helpful comment?
Sorry, I haven't seen that.
She said, is that a helpful thing to say?
Well, I haven't seen it, so I'm not going to comment on it without having seen it. Okay, thanks everybody.
Just one more on the
yeah.
marine reserve.
Yeah.
Can you just, for Kiwis wondering what high protection areas might be, how are they different from marine reserves? Less protection?
So what I can say is that in terms of both marine reserves and high protection areas, they offer a high level of protection for the marine, and that there won't be able to be commercial fishing or recreational fishing in those areas. Marine reserves are something that we've had in legislation for some time. We only have a few of them around this area in particular. High protection areas is a new tool that we've come up with through the consultation process to strike a balance of marine protection but also the continuation of customary practices. And we have been able to achieve that through the proposal of the high protection areas.
Mr. Brian, when you tally up those high protection areas where you're not allowed to fish, that equals about 6%. Is that enough?
So that's what we are announcing today. Those are the proposals that have been worked through in a significant consultation with all stakeholders. But as you heard, there were challenges from those that also spoke today about wanting to see more. Of course, that would have to go through the same sorts of consultation processes. But I am really proud that today we have tripled the amount of marine protection that we will see in the Hauraki Gulf Tikapo Moana.
Right. Mr. Prime, what does this mean for the application for a marine reserve at Waikiki?
That reserve is a separate application to this process. It hasn't been part of the proposals that have been put forward and announced today. It is an application under the Marine Reserves Act. As I am the decision maker on that and I am yet to receive advice from my department around that decision, I can't comment on that today.
Okay, thanks very much everybody. We'll go back that way.